Whether you are trying to complete your Goodreads reading challenge or you just want some awesome books to read without the big time commitment, I am here today to bring you my favorite short books. All of the books on my list are 200 pages or less, the vast majority being science fiction or fantasy books. And just because they're short does not mean they do not have a powerful story inside. The first book on my list is unlike all the rest. It is the only nonfiction on my list, and that is 10 Days in a Madhouse. This is a very powerful story that I read this year where we follow the real life journalist who purposely got herself committed into an insane asylum in the late 1800s so she could write about the conditions in the insane asylum. Her work actually created a lot of lasting change for the people in these asylums. Now moving on to your regularly scheduled science fiction and fantasy books, starting with a sci-fi and one of my favorite books of this year, that is Lost Ark Dreaming. This is a story about survival and what it means to be human. We are set in the future on Earth, and we are following characters who live in these high-rise towers because the Earth is covered in water. These three characters are sent to investigate a breach in the tower, and they soon discover that there is a vengeful water demon that has broken into the tower. And this story follows these characters, and we get to know the characters, their hopes, dreams, and fears, as they are on this fast-paced adventure to protect those in the tower. This book is both reflective and an adventure story, and I really love how it combines both of those. The next one on my list is an even shorter story. It is The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. This is a short story that I read this year and absolutely loved. But if you are doing this for your Goodreads reading challenge, it is considered its own book. You can get an ebook version of this that is just The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, but I did read it as part of a short story collection. And so you don't have to read the entire short story collection. This is also not the only short story collection that features The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. I became interested in reading this story after watching Hello Future Me's video, which I will have linked. This is a story about a utopia, but it's in conversation with the reader. Do you believe that you can have a utopia, that you can have joy and happiness without pain and suffering? Oftentimes, whenever sci-fi stories have utopias, there is this dark underside to the utopia, and we explore that in The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. I really loved this story and really loved diving into the paradox of utopia that has a dark underbelly, of joy and happiness without pain and suffering, and the questions of how often we turn a blind eye to pain and suffering because it does not affect us. There are also a lot of other short stories, novellas, and stories that are in conversation with The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. I have started reading some of them, and I've really enjoyed getting to see different takes on this story and different paradoxes in some of these other stories. One of the stories that I believe might be in conversation with The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, even though it doesn't say that directly, is The Practice, the Horizon, the Chain. As of filming this, I am only halfway through this, but it is very short, and I am absolutely loving this. This is about a boy who is raised in the underbelly of the ship, and he is one of the chained. He is made to work, and he's also experiences pain and deprivation all the time. And he is chosen to rise to be among the elite and educated, and he is chosen to be given this education and to live among them. And so far it is about him adjusting to a different life and also recognizing the chains that the people who don't have physical chains also have in their lives. I am so excited to find out where this goes, and I am absolutely loving it. My next recommendation is In the Shadow of the Fall. This is the first fantasy book on this list, and this was one I read earlier this year and really enjoyed. In this story, we follow an acolyte who has been passed over by the gods year after year and is not allowed to progress in her journey. And she is desperately searching for answers and searching for her place in the world. We are following her as she's experiencing this inner turmoil and trying to figure out what to do with it and where she belongs. We also have another perspective in this story, which is a shape-shifting character who is set to destroy our main character. And the getting to see from his perspective really draws the tension into the story, because you realize he can show up anywhere and you never know if our main character is talking to a friend or a foe. Next on my list is Dead Cattail Assassins. This is definitely a change of pace from the rest of them on this list. This is a much more fun and lighthearted story. We have a lot of banter throughout this story. This is the story of a zombie assassin. Our main character is dead and she has pledged service to the goddess of assassins. So her body is resurrected and her memory is wiped and she is sent on assassination quests. Now there are rules for the assassination quests, and of course things go wrong and our character breaks the rules for assassination and then has to clean up the mess that comes along with all of this. I found this story very immersive and entertaining, and I definitely recommend if you're looking for a short but very fun story. Moving back to sci-fi, next on my list is This Is How You Lose the Time War. In this story, we follow two agents from rival agencies as they travel through time and try to mess things up for the other agency. These characters start leaving notes for each other. At first, they are like, haha, I got here first, or I beat you, and we are reading their notes. So as readers at first, we don't have much context for what is going on, but as these characters continue to leave notes for each other, they start to tell each other more and more things, which means we as readers also get to discover more about this world and what is going on. And these characters start to trust each other and give each other even more information. And it is so interesting to watch their relationship develop. About a third of the way through this story, I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm enjoying this. I'm having fun with it. And I feel like this story slowly unfolds, and I had so much fun reading This Is How You Lose the Time War. Next, I have Murderbot, because who doesn't want to read about a killer robot who just wants to watch TV and be left alone? That is what the Murderbot stories are about. We are following a robot. They are a security unit, and they hack into their governor module and make it so they don't have to listen to commands, and then they spend their time watching TV. Now, our Murderbot robot is assigned to protect these humans, and while they don't care about the humans often get themselves into trouble and get themselves into deadly situations. And Murderbot is such a softie and decides to help the humans, sometimes begrudgingly, like, I just want to watch TV. Why are you making me come out here and protect you from this deadly situation you put yourself in? And it is so entertaining. So if you're looking for a fun time, this is a series of novellas, and then there are 2 novels at the end. Moving back to fantasy, next I have Thornhedge. This is the story of Sleeping Beauty, but it is not like the story of Sleeping Beauty you are familiar with. We are following this story from the fairy that is meant to guard Sleeping Beauty and the knight that came to rescue Sleeping Beauty. And these 2 characters work against each other, but end up sitting down and having conversations and talking about their past and how they ended up where they are. And that's most of the story. But we get to see flashbacks of how did these characters end up here. As with most T. Kingfisher books, it's dark and cozy and quirky and entertaining. It is my least favorite T. Kingfisher book, but it is very highly rated, and it's a T. Kingfisher book, so I still enjoyed it. Next on my list, I have Untethered Sky. This is a novella that is about vengeance and grief and learning to let go. We are following a main character as she witnesses her family get killed by manticores, and she decides to become a manticore hunter to avenge her family. And we follow her as she rises through the ranks of manticore hunter and loses herself in vengeance, but also rediscovers herself and learns how to grieve and let go. And it is such an emotionally impactful story, and I loved it. Next, I have Gossamer, which is such an interesting, unique story. So we are following these creatures, these really small creatures that come into your house at night and give you dreams. And how they decide what dreams to give you is by touching things in your house and pulling the memories from those things. You leave remnants of memories of events that happened on things throughout the house, on your coat, on the chair, just on a picture frame. And these dream givers come in and touch those things, and we get to see the human stories through these memories as these dream givers are touching the things in the house and discovering what dreams to bestow. There's also this nightmare horde, which is another group of creatures that comes in and tries to disrupt the dream givers and give the dreaming person nightmares. And the dream givers have to fight against that by coming up with pleasant, happy dreams to overtake the nightmare horde that is coming to disrupt these humans' lives. It is such an interesting story. It's very unique, and I've not read anything like it. It is very short, and I enjoyed it a lot. Last on my list before I get into my 2 bonus picks, that is the Ice Dragon. In this story, we are following this girl who is very cold-hearted. She absolutely loves winter because she has discovered this ice dragon, which is her only companion, and the ice dragon only arrives during the winter. Our girl has grown up around the ice dragon, and that is all she's known. And the ice dragon's her only companion. She is very lonely, possibly due to her cold-heartedness. But our girl's family is in danger and being threatened by a war and fiery dragons. And she has to determine whether she clings onto her cold-heartedness or whether her heart starts to melt a little bit. And now on to my bonus picks for this video. The first one of my bonus picks is actually just kind of a collection. It is Shakespeare. But before you click off, the best way to experience Shakespeare obviously is like actually seeing a play, but the second best way is audio dramas. There are audio dramas of Shakespeare now. I listened to Macbeth this year via audio drama, and that is an excellent way to experience the story, and you get to experience a little bit of the drama without just reading a play. And finally, I have a few rules for predicting the future. This is actually an essay, but the essay was published in book format this year, so it kind of counts as a book now. This is an essay by Octavia Butler, as she was talking about her inspiration for the parable of the sower and the parable of the talents. And she's talking about how to predict the future. And she does that by looking at problems in the world that are going unaddressed, and just let's take those problems and go out 30, 50 years, and what would happen if we continue to not address them? What's the world going to look like? And she also talks about how people treat each other and how we look for easy answers to problems instead of looking at the human side of things. I thought this was an absolutely fabulous essay, and I recommend it. So those are my recommendations for short, fun, and enriching stories. Let me know your recommendations in the comments. If you have any short stories, novellas, essays, things that you found impactful, fun, enjoyable, and I hope to see you in another video. Happy reading!